Hello and welcome to the Flannel Chef. Today we're going to be making a pork tenderloin crusted in herbs and a blueberry pan sauce. So do as I do, pour yourself a drink. This is my first video, so I'm glad you are all here to share a drink and get cooking with me. So let's get started. First we're going to need some thyme, rosemary, going to need whole leaf sage, none of the dried stuff, salt, pepper, as always, and our pork tenderloin. And that's going to do it for our meats. We'll move over to the pan. We are going to need, I'm using an apple cherry cider. You can use white wine. I need a nearly dropped shallot, white wine vinegar. I'm going to use some sugar. We're going to use some salt and pepper too. And then blueberries. Those are kind of the star of the show. You can use huckleberry, raspberry. Anything works. You try it out for yourself. So let's move to prep. So we're going to have to finely chop all of this. We're going to start off by picking our whole leaf sage, none of the dried stuff, first off the stems. Now I want to stress this point. If you get the stems into your dry rub mix, not only is it going to stick to the pan, not only is it going to set off every smoke alarm in your house, it's pretty gross to chew on. Like awful. Terrible. I don't recommend it. So, now that we have pretty much everything together, we are going to move over to chopping it. How I like to start is by bundling everything as tightly as possible. Trust me, it is going to save you in the long run. Now, this being my first video, I want to tell you guys and apologize in advance for the subsequent earthquake that's about to happen now. I'll figure out a way to stabilize my camera later, but you get the idea. We want it nice and fine, this herb mixture, and you should end up with something like this. So after we clean our knife, we can move on to the sauce ingredients. Now, we have that nearly dropped shallot, and here it is, me being a little smoother, bam. And I like to start by peeling the shallot in between the two cloves that usually grow inside them. Shallots are really powerful. You're probably going to cry. It's probably going to suck. It did suck for me. And trust me, it's worth it. They're very tasty. Once you get that done, you're going to cut off both ends and slice as thinly as you possibly can. So now we have our shallot sliced. We're going to move over to the berries. We need the bowl of the food processor. Dump your berries in. And we are just going to puree those. Plain and simple. So all the prep work is done for the sauce and the dry rub. Now it's time to move on to the meat. That's our pork tenderloin. What you see right there is a gland. We need to remove that. And then we have our silver skin, which is inedible. Needs to get out of there. So let's start off with that little gland. You just schnick under it, bam, and then right over. Not a lot of meat loss. Then when it comes to removing silver skin, it's a lot like filleting a fish. You want to get your knife blade under it, and then with keeping the blade facing up, we're going to start kind of rocking back and forth. And then once we get enough for a handhold, we'll do it on the other side. And pretty easy. Look at that. You do that to all of it. So once that's done, we're going to move on to seasoning. Season liberally on all sides. We're going to start with salt. And then we're going to move on to our pepper. And be sure to use a pepper mill. It tastes a lot better. Trust me. Trust me. Then we're going to move on to our dry rub, and that's our rosemary, thyme, sage, and you'll end up with something like that. Looks like you kind of want to eat it now. I know I do if I wouldn't get sick. Going to wrap it in saran wrap, throw it in the fridge for about 30 minutes. Now that our pork loin has chilled, we're going to get a pan up to medium high to high heat, depending upon your stovetop. Get a little touch of olive oil in there. And it looks like we're ready, so we're going to take it out of the saran wrap and lay it down. And it's going to stick to, not cast iron, but stainless steel. It will stick to stainless steel. And that's okay, because it's going to build up fond. And that is like the best thing for pan sauces. Look at that. And the moment you're going to realize that it's brown and good to go is when it starts to lift off the pan. Now, I had to do a little bit of shaking. But once we get it flipped over, you're going to see what I'm talking about. That beautiful, beautiful golden brown bam. I absolutely love that crust, and it makes the best pan sauces. You think to yourself, oh God, this is going to be a terrible experience when I have to do dishes. It's not. It's worth it. It's what a deglaze is for. So there we go. That's our tenderloin. We're going to let that rest for 10 minutes under foil, and then we're going to add our shallots. Now I decided to give those an arbitrary mix-up so I can put a little bit of olive oil to keep things from sticking to the bottom of the pan. But you see the black stuff, that's okay. You see the brown stuff, that's okay. It's all going to come up in the deglaze. So now that we have some color on our shallots, we are going to actually do the cool part, and that's getting that fond off the bottom. So here's that apple cherry sizer that I was talking about earlier. We're going to dump that in the pan. Now, I was a big idiot and decided not to turn the heat down, and I burnt the absolute hell out of my hand. Safety, that's a thing we should think about. But you can see how that stuff on the bottom is starting to come up now that we added that liquid. And we're going to want to get as much of that off as we possibly can. And add a little more. I love the apple cherry sizer, so I use as much of it as I can. I pretty much drank half of it. Then we're going to add our blueberry puree. And it looks thick now. You just keep stirring, and it will thin up quite a bit thanks to the alcohol that we introduced into this lovely sauce. So once you have everything incorporated, we're pretty much, next step is going to be seasoning. And I burnt the hell out of that spoon, so I had to take that away. So we're going to start with some salt. And then we're going to crank in pepper. Always use the pepper mill. I will stress this every time I make a video. Pepper mill, pepper mill, pepper mill. So much better. And I was kind of a big dummy and forgot to add this bit, but some white wine vinegar, because that's going to be sweet as is. I decided to actually nix the sugar completely because it was so sweet. And then we're going to aggressively reduce it by about half. And you can see it's sticking to the back of the spoon. Give it a taste, season if you need to, and that should be a fantastic pan sauce, and it was. So, now that we're having that cool on the side, we are going to place our pork tenderloin in a pan with some olive oil on medium heat. Now, the FDA just came out with a recent, a study? Recommendation? I don't know. Either way, it's now saying that you can eat pork at medium rare. So like 165, maybe not 165. Either way, I don't use a heat gun. I either cut it in half or I do the tried and true finger poking technique, where your pinky is well done, your ring finger to thumb is medium. But I got it to that nice medium rare, and it was good to go. So now it's time for plating. Looks like Harley came to help out, and she loves it when I cook because she knows she's going to get something. So I got everything up on my clean cutting board, and I'm just going to ladle spoonful after spoonful of this blueberry sauce. I think it's fantastic. I would put it on bread and eat it if I could. And be sure to get some shallots on there. It adds a little bit of extra texture, and it's overall good. Be sure to slosh it everywhere too. I will warn you now, it stains everything. Look at that. Harley likes it. It's stained Harley before, and she is an all-white dog, but there you have it. Now, I'm super excited. Let's tuck in. Got an end piece, and I ran out of steak knife, so I'm using the knife that I use to butcher steaks and deer with. And look at that. It's done on the inside. Get some more sauce on it, and fantastic. Now, this is something you can easily do in 20-30 minutes. I recommend it. I obviously love it. I mean, look at me, an idiot on screen. And now, for the ultimate test, how does the dog like it? And if I didn't hold on to it, she'd probably inhale the damn thing. But there you have it. That's a pork tenderloin in a blueberry sauce. So try it out. Let me know how it goes. As always, my food pairs best with whiskey, beer, and mead, and I'll see you in the next video.